All right, welcome back to We Are the Fall. I'm Gavin,
And I'm Steve.
and today we're wishing you a good morning, good afternoon, good evening if you're hanging out late like we are tonight. And we got a little treat for you. And we're starting off Una Baines week this week, and we're really looking forward to a lot of fun stuff that we gotta, I don't know, sink our teeth into. And if it is morning and you're headed to work and you're listening along with us, this is something that's going to brighten your day. And I think it's going to put you in a good mood for the rest of your day. And if you're ending your day and you just had the fucking just shittiest day you could ever imagine, this is going to be something that's going to turn it around. It's going to give you a little bit of a new faith in the world, in humanity. And today we're talking about the beautiful first and only album by the band The Fates, led by Una Baines, that we know and we love from the Blue Orchids, as well as the founding member of The Fall. And Una Baines started this band with a bunch of her, it just seems like creative collaborators. It just seems like totally organic, natural, getting a group of your favorite creative people together and making sounds and making music that they love. And that's what you get on the Fates 1985 album Furia. And this album was supposed to come out in, I believe, Halloween Day, 1985, but it got, postponed a little bit because it was supported by funding of from a record label. But yeah, this is an album that is going to be so fun. I really love this album. And yeah, so what do you think about this one, Steve?
9 tracks she put together, totally unique. It's not really anything like The
Hmm.
Fall or Blue Orchids. It's definitely something she created herself, and you could feel she put kind of her heart and soul into it. It's lyrics with singing. The singing is great on the album, as well as the sounds that come out of the different instruments.
Yeah, and Marky Smith even said that this album, what he gave it a very positive reference in some place, and he said, and he compared it to another band that I'm forgetting the band right now, but he compared it to kind of this experimental folk band that was British, I believe, and I do hear the how it could be perceived as folk song, folk music, and also somewhat experimental, especially on one of the tracks. But this is really something that has some rocking parts to it, and it also has these choir choirs of female vocals that are really beautiful, but also at times like chanting, and it's not even singing it sometimes. It's even one of the tracks is called a poem, not even a song. So you get a bunch of different facets and dimensions from the Fates that's very lovely, and the album does not it keeps your interest the entire time, and actually it's every turn it makes, it's kind of going into a direction where you want to follow it along, you want to go deeper, you want to feel that spiritual connection to it that it is so easy for it's so easy to wrap yourself in it because it is a warm sounding album. And this album was also produced by Tony Friel. So someone that we're very familiar with, Tony Friel, one of the founding members of The Fall as well. And he basically gifted a lot of studio time to Una and this project so that she could get it done under the budget that was given to her, which was, I guess, a very, very modest budget by the label that she asked Taboo Records to do it. And I guess she went to them and told them, "Hey, I got this idea for a band. It's going to sound like the Blue Orchids kind of." And then, but she didn't really know at all what it was going to sound like, and she didn't have any of the songs, which was great. It's great to just go into the studio and write on the spot. And Tony Friel, I think, was really supportive, and I don't think the album would sound anywhere near as cohesive as it does, or as dynamic as it does, without Tony Friel producing. And of course, producing in his own studio, which is going to allow him to get all the cool sounds that he knows he can make and maybe think outside the box.
It definitely has like a witchy vibe. I mean, very female forward, feminist album with themes that kind of follow throughout the album.
Yeah, what are some of those themes that you pick up on?
I mean, it's just kind of the female empowerment vibe, whether, I think it was kind of coming into fruition, or, Una was big in that community, and I
Mm.
think she wanted to put something out there, into the world, even just to, to help inspire other women to continue down that path, and then to get her friends that, were involved in it with her out there to, create something beautiful and, kind of share it with the world.
Yeah, that's right. And she definitely did that. And she was definitely like this is 1985 when this album comes out, but it's not like she just decided to do that at this point. She was always very much a empowered spirit and culture that she just surrounded herself by. And even that was one of the things I think that made a connection with her and Mark E. Smith together, was he was all for that sort of self-righteousness in a purely human way, where she's really just trying to look out for people that are maybe pushed to the fringes when they're not. They shouldn't be. They should be put in the front and allowed to lead, because she was definitely a leader.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mark, obviously he kind of devoted to his family, his mom and his sisters, and
Mm,
so, having that experience, and
mhm,
I don't believe he had any brothers, and,
mm,
a dad that was working all the time. So I'm sure he was raised, surrounded by women, and it
mm.
it kind of changes you, or it shows you a perspective that you don't always get if you're in a male kind of dominated world. And, maybe, we always get back to his, like, whether he was bullied or teased, or, I mean, kind of the odd man out in a lot of situations. So if he didn't connect with the boys around him, then it's
Mm.
easy to, see that aspect of things as well.
Totally. And that, yeah, that's a great point about, Mark's upbringing being very female supported, and throughout his whole life, and always, even with his sister being involved with the artwork with the band, and all of the female presence in the fall, starting with Una, and then following for years and decades of just different individuals coming into the band, taking on, I don't want to even call it a role, but taking on that position, because it is a unique position when you're on the road with, four or five dudes. The dynamic is, not always going to be pleasant. And a lot of the times, even when we talk to Martin, he says like that really, just having the female presence really makes the band all for the better, creatively, personnel wise, personality, relationships. I think we can both agree that females are better in all of those domains, and are frequently more trustworthy and reliable in a lot of different aspects. And that makes for a great band member and a great creative entity in any sort of creative endeavor. So Una, she surrounds herself even to this day with her current project Poppycock. You see some of these same individuals that she chose to, or asked to be a part of this project. They're currently working on a new project together. Some of these same individuals, which is so cool. I love to see it. I love to see where there's like a creative connection that just continues, whether there's something that's publicly available or not, as far as records or albums. Just the connection is strong that she could just come back and say, "Hey, I'm starting a new project. I love your voice. I love what you bring to this. Let's keep going with this." And that's, I don't know. I guess that this we're getting a glimpse into her kind of taking the reins as a front person and leader of a band, because even Blue Orchids is her and Martin, but this is just pure Una Baines. And I gotta say, I gotta take the Fates album over a lot of other stuff that is fall adjacent because it is so varied and so I could just always put this album on and just really, like I said earlier, it just brightens your day. And even though it's not all sunshine.
Yeah, I mean, you can feel, whether the love between all of them, right? Like they're doing something creative and interesting and fun for them, and you can just kind of feel
Definitely.
the passion that they have behind on all aspects. And then the album is varied, right? It like you said, some songs are rocking, and then you have the ballads, and you have some experimental stuff. And then you kind of things kind of meld together, and there's strength one and strength two on it, and you're just kind of like, what song are we in? But it carries throughout it, and throughout the entire experience, and you do end up happy and just kind of like, oh,
Hmm.
that was
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, I'm not sure what Taboo Records thought of it, because
Yes,
it's not
yeah.
like anything that
Mm-mm.
I would imagine they were promised. But
Yeah, I do wonder that same thing. The only thing I could find was it is considered under the guise or the genre of it's a UK folk label, so it does make sense that it's kind of fitting in there, or maybe that Una and the Fates got associated with the folk scene because that this label is mainly a folk label, but there's so many references to Una's favorite bands that are very much apparent on this album, and it's not always folk music. The Velvet Underground is really heavy in this album on a couple of tracks. Just but then it goes into a pure psychedelic journey towards the backside. I think maybe the whole album is a great psychedelic journey album to put on if you are looking for that different experience sonically and reality wise.
yeah, and I think a lot of the other musicians are pure folk artists, right? Like a lot of them come from the same family of singers, and you can hear it where their voice is kind of the main instrument for them,
Mhm.
and they create great sound, and it is a joy.
With that, let's get into the first track from the Fates, Furia from 1985 on Taboo Records. This is called Ceaseless Effort. Well, if you don't like that, you can get the hell out of here right now.
Yeah, I mean that flute is beautiful. The flautist is Charlotte Bill, who I believe also played in the fall for a short
Yeah,
period of
that
time.
that flute is really crazy. On this album, there's this flute comes in and out at different parts of different songs, and there's also like a recorder sound it sounds like a pan flute. It might just all be flute, but it sounds like
Yeah,
wavy at times,
different. It's
clean.
different. It's
It's
different
different,
throughout. Yeah,
yeah.
you're like, how many wind
Yeah,
instruments do they have going on in this thing? But yeah, it just might be a talented musician, right?
totally. And I think that also the percussion being so sparse but so tasteful in just these wood sticks clicking together and a single strumming of a guitar or an auto harp or it sounds like acoustic guitar, but it just makes you I don't know, it just lets you just go into the world where I'm listening to just the pure environment and the atmosphere that's created. But then every once in a while, like, what the fuck was, what is that now? Because it's like coming in like a ghostly image. It's just coming in and coming out and floating around. This is, and know what I always picture with this opening track, and it's a great opening track, um, is almost like it could be the intro to a 1970s movie film where I picture a line of women walking up a relatively steep sand dune, or like a desert scene where they're walking up the bank of a sand dune, and they got a cloak on. They all have a cloak on, or they have like a headdress, kind of similar to the what's on the
To the
cover.
cover. Yeah,
Yes.
just like a veil of
Yeah.
some kind. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I mean, even as the album moves on, then you could even be like a different planet, right? Like
yeah,
just like climbing a sand dune in Mars or something, where you're just like,
definitely. There is an otherworldliness to the sound because it is so sparse on this first track. And then when Una's voice comes in, you're just like, wait a second, that's the same Una Baines from, you know, Blue Orchids in the Fall. Not that she's singing much differently, but just because it's so clear and it's not
e-
in the
exactly,
back,
yeah.
it's not affected. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's you don't know her as a singer, and I don't think she would claim to be a singer, but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, with all these other beautiful singers around her, she certainly carries her own throughout this album, where it's not, it's a great sound.
There's even a xylophone that comes in with a little ding, ding, ding. And that is beautiful. I'm always for a xylophone, some xylophone action in my listening life.
Yeah, I think throughout the album, Una truly kind of shows her synth chops too. Like there's where she's really trying to show, yeah, I can play this keyboard. Don't I'm not the little I'm not just a tinker fall playing my Snoopy. I know what I'm doing out here.
Yeah. She has a musician style that I'm very much aligned with, which is she finds a sound that is inspirational to her, and then she lets that dictate what the song will be. And I very much like that because it's not, write the song first and then find something that works well enough that really kind of gets the point across. But she's really just letting the sounds take her to a place where, yeah, that is the sound. Or, I know basically this is kind of an Oregon sounding song, but I want it to be very heavenly. So let me find something like that. And
Yeah,
I think that's why she's a synth
it's the synth queen.
killer,
Yeah, the
synth
synth
queen.
queen. Yeah, I mean the whole album is
I
just
love synth queen.
it's just
Yeah.
so warm, which is not what you get
Hmm.
with the fall, right? Like it's comforting.
Yeah, it's and it's got nowhere to be, right? The fall
No, you're
always
just
has something.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Even
Even
on
the yeah.
their 11-minute tracks, they're still
Hmm.
you're pushing toward the end. You're not sure when
Hmm.
it's gonna end, but you're driving there fast.
Yeah, that's what it is. There's like a pure purpose to it, and there's not a explicit purpose to these songs.
I was gonna say there's not a purpose besides creativity, right?
Yeah,
Besides the experience,
being
the
inside of it. Yeah.
yeah, the message, the wonderment of music and women and things like that. It's great.
Yeah, that was Ceaseless Effort. And that title just also Ceaseless Effort, when I hear that, it sounds like a Blue Orchid song title. It just reminds me of it, Sun Connection, Dumb Music Magician, the two-word combo, but then the two words going together that makes it kind of thrown, low profile. It's something about that. And before we move on, let's talk about the availability of this album because this is not an easy album to come by for whatever reason. It did get reissued by Finders Keepers Records, which I'm very much appreciative of because it was what allowed us to get a copy of it. But even if you're in the United States and you're looking for this album, you need to you need to do some bin diving and you need to go to a bunch of record stores, try to find this. I think there's like one copy
Yeah,
CD on Discogs in the United States, so you need to
yeah, I
go
don't
look for it.
even. Yeah, I see one album. It's the LP, and it's $102. So
Okay, all right, yeah, that's probably the original one, but you want
yeah,
to get, yeah, if you're in Europe, you got a better chance of picking this up. Even I think on YouTube, there's only a couple of the song tracks. Yeah, so, but I think the search, it's like one of those things where the search for the album and the rarity of it or the inaccessibility immediately to be listening to it, right when you think of it, it makes you dive in deeper. It makes you
it's
want
just
to go
it,
deeper.
it makes you want it more, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
I listened to a couple of the ones that you could find on YouTube, and you're like, man, those are good. What else is hiding? Why
Yes.
can't I find it? Why is it not out there? I mean, this is.
Yes.
It's not 1985 anymore. I can access anything, I'll be a pirate if I need to, but it's not even there. Like,
No, it's not. It's so, and then yeah, like you said, you listen to the couple of I'll just say singles, whatever, that you can find online, and you listen to those and you're like, wow, those are really beautiful. Like they're so
they're so different too, where you're
different.
you're just
Yeah.
like, oh man, this is
Hmm.
not what I thought it was gonna be, or
Yes. And so you want to search it out. But then when you are able to secure it, you're kind of hesitant to put it on because then you're like, I don't want to be let down because those two songs were like, unbelievable. I just, were those the only ones that, really made it out of off the album into the public domain for a reason. And then you put
yeah,
this on
exactly
and
right. Is that the only reason anyone cares about these two?
yeah, but then you put it on
Yeah,
and you're like, whoa, it's for real. It's the real deal.
yeah, you hope with Poppycock getting a new album going, and you hope that this makes a resurgence of some sort. I mean, get it out there. Let the people hear it. It's no point gathering dust in the archives somewhere.
Come on, jump on Patreon, like throw us the cost of a pint per month, and we're gonna get this re-released, with Una Baines' obvious consent and approval. Let's get it to the public. This deserves to be listened to by in masses, but also in groups, like just like in large groups, just like the fates were. And I think that's the best way to listen to it. Throw it on, and with a big group of your friends that are most open-minded and having a good time. Actually, anyone, even if you got some close-minded individuals in your lives, we all do, bring them in and say, hey, let's just sit down and listen to this. And I bet
Yeah.
you they're going to be abrasive and defensive at first, but don't fall into that. You just let it kind of wash over them, and I bet
Just,
you they come
just
come
get
around.
them, serve them a nice glass of mushroom tea,
Ooh,
and then put this on 30 minutes later and let
ooh,
them dissolve.
ooh, I like that. I think every politician should be required to do that, especially American politicians. That should be the initiation when they get sworn in, and then see what they do after that. it can only help. So let's go into the next track. What do we got, Steve?
Bridget of Ireland. So yeah, this is a track about Una Baines' mother, who's named Bridget. She was dying at the time when they were creating this, so this is a ode to her.
Richard of Ireland.
Bridget of Ireland, who spoke the first tongue. Bridget of Ireland, who sang the first song. Gavin is a stream in the night. Your love is a star shining bright. And in my dream, your vision burns like flame. The pubs of Danaan are filled with.
If you don't like that one, you can get the hell out of here.
I'm gonna say, I hope one of my daughters writes me such a beautiful ballad. That's,
Yeah, yeah.
you
I don't
know,
mean to laugh. I don't mean to laugh at that, but that
yeah,
that is that the sound she's gonna go for? Is she
I don't
gonna?
care. It doesn't even have to be the sound, but just the feelings, the love,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the
absolutely.
the yeah, it's beautiful. Like,
It's
right,
yeah, it's so
your
touching.
your room is a cauldron of light. Your love is the sun shining bright. I mean, it's great.
It sounds like it's already a classic ballad hymn, like from olden times. It sounds like it already existed prior to 1985, probably in 1785, that it was being sung, in a church, or is it being sung outside of a church by the port. It's something that sounds so timeless about the melody that she wrote and
But yeah, I was
her
gonna say, yeah,
voice.
just like even like the funeral song, right? You can put me into the ground of that thing.
Oh, definitely.
You
Yeah,
know, I hope I don't
definitely.
go in the ground. Do something better with me than that. But
Yeah,
um,
no, they can put that. They put that in the casket with you, a little Bluetooth
just play, yeah,
Bose
play.
speaker.
Just, I don't need bows. You could go cheap. It doesn't need to play that long.
Uh, no, they're gonna have it hooked up so it's like always being charged, so you just
Okay.
listen to, the
Solar,
wires coming out.
little solar panel instead of a
Yeah,
little flower vase.
yeah, yeah. But if you get buried in Chicago, that's gonna get ripped out of there real quick. They see that power cord coming out. But this song is such a cinematic sound, like all of these songs. I really do believe this album in general, it can be used in so many different cinematic, um, almost like a film score soundtrack, because it's so diverse, but it does just set the scene. I could just be visualizing so quickly from the first three, four notes what's going on, who's there. Sometimes the music doesn't let you in that quickly. Sometimes the music almost like The Fall, it forces you to stay on the outside and kind of decipher from the outside outward edges until you can finally find that little crease, that crevice, that crack, and then you crawl inside, and then from the inside you see all the details. This one is just, let me take you in my arms, let me hold you, let me just tell you everything that this is about. And it doesn't even matter if it's universal, because it's just kind of a personal connection can be made to it so quickly, so easily. The drum on this one
Yeah, I was
sounds
gonna say
almost like
that.
just a hand drum.
I
It
think it is
sounds
a yeah.
cool,
I think it is a hand drum. I mean,
like on a
that
tom or a floor or a kick
yeah
drum.
the folk aspect. The drummer is Paulette Story.
Mm. So let's
Um,
let's give a shout out to Paulette, and let's also give a shout out once again to Tony Friel for producing this. And Tony Friel's studio is called Playtime 4-track Studio, and I don't know much about it, but if it was an actual 4-track That's in the title. So, but if it was just a 4-track studio, it does make sense why a lot of these tracks are so sparse. And even on this one, after each chorus where Una's singing, you get open tracks where you can add more instruments to come in. So after she sings, there is a different set combination of the flute with the keyboard and a different kind of a bass kind of synth keyboard that sounds naturally sounding almost like oboe, and the different flutes and recorders going over the top. So it does make sense it's a 4-track studio, but also it just allows for the production to be that much more sparse and thoughtful as to, guys, we only have one track. When after she sings, it's opened up. What do you want to put on there? Let's put on like a different kind of flute, or let's put on two flutes together that are overlapping, intertwining. It's really, I don't know, it's really nice. It really just fits the sound of the band because there's so many individuals. It must have been hard for her to be like, oh, that would be, or maybe it was so easy and natural to be like, oh, this definitely just needs one more thing. Let's just add it right here. Or it's done, it makes it easier too to be like, oh, it's done. Bridget of Ireland. Now we get into a track with a little bit of a groove to it. Sheila.
Sheila was a woman with a creative mind, involved with cosmetics and things of that kind. She couldn't live in the safety of a Hollywood scene, and the things people said used to make her scream. So they told her she was crazy, couldn't be a real lady. What she needed was a baby and a man to see her through.
She thinks she can just be herself in this world.
She's telling all those people that are telling her she only has one place that she can go to and be one role. Hey, fuck off, mate. Yeah,
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. Right. The beginning of the rise of the independent woman who gets to choose her path versus what's been shown to her and what's been expected of her.
With the backing music, it just there's so many good lyrics in this one. It's just a perfect combination because the droniness and the rock, very much a Velvet Underground, almost kind of rock and roll groove drone as the backing track. It almost sounds like a tape loop too, because it has like a kind of the repetitive kind of build and change up with the guitar strumming. It sounds so cool. I love this one.
I think it might actually be a looping Velvet
I'm
Underground's backbeat.
I mean, it's so much informed by it, but it sounds so cool. And I do hear the guitar change at different parts, but even there's like a lyric at the beginning or a couple repeated a couple times where it's talking about Sheila and how in relation to in some form, I can't always catch it, but it's talking about, do you catch it? It's talking about cosmetics, and it says cosmetics and things of that type or things of that kind. Um, and then the things people say just to watch her scream, it's like almost the prodding, the insensitive prodding of her viewpoints and maybe
Yeah, and
kind
her
of
path,
cutting
right?
her out.
Exactly the path
Yeah.
she's chosen, and how
Hmm.
she's going to be unhappy and a failure, and just how that must feel
Right.
to be living that, where you've got your everything ahead of you that you want and desire, and yet everyone around you is pushing you back and pushing you sideways to do what they want or what they think is best, and you're just like, yeah,
Yeah,
like you said, it's just like, fuck off, mate. Like, this is where I'm going. Either you get on board or get out of the way.
they only think it's best or the only kind of option for her because that's all they know too, right? It's such a narrow perspective that she's kind of talking to or trying to persuade them to say, look, it doesn't have to be this way. There's so many other options. There just because it's a square hole, it doesn't mean that I'm a square peg. It doesn't mean that it has to fit right into that one thing. I can go into so many other areas. I could be doing so many different things. I don't need to be, fitting into the cookie cutter.
Yeah, I don't need to be this traditional wife, mother,
Right.
that's my life and my whole purpose of being.
Right.
Um,
There's so many
yeah,
valuable options. There's so many different ways to, but not having the options, not having even the ability to even, it sounds like, talk about it and even discuss. I want to do this instead. I feel like better if I do this. I will be more happier if I do this. Not even having that option, that is just making her scream. That's making her scream out in frustration, in pure, uh, like almost agony, even though the tranquil music in the background, it's really kind of offsetting just the pure frustration of, it's really well done and it really just gets to the heart of it. Also, can we go back to the production choice too? Because everything is so clean, it's not hyper clean. It does have this kind of woolliness to the everything, really warm, like you said earlier, really warm. Everything sounds big. Everything sounds almost like it's bleeding into each other, which is definitely that saturated tape effect. The vocals, because they have kind of this little bit of warmth to them, it does make it almost like it's a person whispering to you where you're trying to catch it. It's not really trying to cut through to make it in the forefront like a traditional mix, which is really great as well. I think this album is very much a stereo album for me. Like, you got to put it on a stereo. You have to listen to it in a room. You have to listen to it, light a candle, and
you want to lay down on the carpet again?
I'm always trying to lay down. I'm fucking tired. No, but I just, yeah, lay down on the carpet. Or this is also a good pondering song where you're walking around. And if you want an alternative, because like we're just saying, there's not a circular hole and then a circular peg. If you got a square peg, you go walk in the forest with this on some headphones. Ooh. Or if you're Steve, you'll walk around the forest on the hiking trail with your big ass fucking boombox,
Oh yeah.
blasting it into the woods for every
Everyone
other.
need everyone needs to hear it. They can't find it, so why shouldn't I show it to them?
Yeah. Uh, you just walking through. You're welcome. You're
You're
welcome.
welcome.
You're
Sorry,
welcome.
this is a good part. You're welcome, but
You're
pay
welcome.
attention.
Yeah, but I'm gonna turn it up even louder now. Yeah.
I'm gonna walk fast. You keep up.
I'm gonna walk behind you. I see where you're going. I'm just gonna walk. I'm gonna follow you. It's like the opposite of what this song wants you to do. All right, I mean, that's a really good song. I like it. And so this one transitions seamlessly into a track that is totally different, and but it's a great seamless transition and it kind of goes with some percussion into the track called She Beats in My Heart.
She beats in my heart, rides through my veins, tears the world apart, on a horse with no reins. She beats in my heart, rides through my veins, tears the world apart, on a horse with no reins. She beats in my heart, rides through my veins, tears the world apart, on a horse with no reins. She beats in my heart, rides through my veins, tears the world apart.
If I disturbed whatever it is these women were doing out in the woods, I would gladly allow them to sacrifice me. I mean, I'm sure they would want to, and if my boombox, if I was playing the song, hopefully they'd let me go. But I don't know. I don't.
I don't think you deserve it, but I will also condone the sacrifice if that is the situation. I do want. I was thinking this the other day too. I think we were listening to Wonderful and Frightening World of the Fall, and we are talking about Marky Smith and cults. But this is actually the cult I want to be a part of. This cult seems very much like the vibe that I can get into a lot easier. This is I'll do whatever. I'll do we need to reevaluate the whole system in general. So I'm down for new ideas, new ways of living, as long as everyone's treating each other with respect and kindness and gets to be creative and gets to share things that are meaningful to them. Then I say let's do this. And I think Una would be on the same page with that. So interesting because it does transition from the previous track seamlessly. There's two different percussion tracks on the song, and they're panned straight hard left and hard right. So if you're listening with headphones, it's really easy to pick it up. But if you're not, you can still get the stereo image of two different people or just two different very interesting hand percussion beats that are different going on in your head, and the repetitiveness of the lyrics, which does not change through the whole time. They only just add effects, which is pretty cool. Like again, flange their voices around the spectrum. If you are deciding to go on the psychedelic journey along with this album, this song might just make you feel like you lost 5 days if you're just hearing that, because it is really gonna. I feel like I would have just been in an outer body experience, probably floating
Yeah, it reminds me
hundreds
of
of
like
thousands of miles.
something that should be playing in like a sweat lodge or something, right? Like some
The
Native
chants.
American chanting. You step out of this sweaty lodge, and there's just wild horses, and you're just like, yeah, it's an experience if you get into it.
Actually, no, it mostly reminds me of a modern Blue Orchid song from their last album called High Horse. Do you remember
No,
that one,
sure,
Steve?
yeah.
Where I don't know if it's intentional or not, but I think Martin might be. Obviously, they have songs like this in the Blue Orchids catalog too. So probably the most reasonable, feasible explanation is both Una and Martin really liked this style of songwriting, which is to have a song that's hyper repetitive lyrically and circular in the music, the musicality and the instrumentation. And yeah, the High Horse song by Blue Orchids is very similar, where from my high horse, all I see is victory. And it's just over and over again, just a great line. If you find a great line, you might as well just keep it going, keep it rolling on top of itself and snowballing towards something. Your mind almost makes something unique happen because it is just allowed to disconnect from what is being said, and then it almost reinterprets the words as they're coming to you when you come back to it. It's really interesting. I already feel like we got a lot on this first side, but guess what? We got two more tracks. So should we change the pace drastically?
Drastically change things up here.
Let's go into the Stone Cold classic hit, No Romance.
Yeah.
I don't wanna be captured in an old romance that passes and passes till there's no room to dance. Just a case of honesty, no need to ask your leave. It's a comedy when we disagree, but I'll do my best for the real thing. Pick up my hat, it's unique and things. Yes, I'll give my all for the real thing. Let everybody sing.
Yeah, I've just played that one over and over again. it's bumping, it's beautiful. You're just like, man, it's gets me where I'm going.
Kind of what I was hinting at the beginning. If you're having a bad day, you need to put out No Romance by the Fates, and you need to just allow yourself to just turn over that leaf, move
Yeah, it's just
forward.
right.
It's not that big a deal.
You're having some relationship moments. You're not exactly enjoying what's going on. You come back, listen to this a couple times, and realize what what was there before.
What's important, you know? And even the way that she approaches it, she's just saying it's a comedy. You know, when we're disagreeing, it's a comedy. She's laughing at, you know, the relationship being not what it should be. And she's kind of like, that's not what I need. That's not, you know, it's not worth my time. I mean, I need to do, I want the real thing. So I'm just going to move forward.
Either have the love and the passion, or
Yeah.
see what's next. So like, yeah, it's
It shouldn't be that hard. And then if it is that hard, then, you know, you just got to laugh at it and move forward with a decision that makes you feel good. And the vocals are just like some Motown.
yeah,
These
Motown.
women.
I was telling you, I hear like a lot of Mamas and the Papas, Mama Cass, like you're just
Mhm,
there's that 60s, 70s like vibing, just feeling good.
mhm. Yeah, I'm hearing that Motown, those backing singers, you know, all in unison. Uh, it's really great song. I don't know if there's much else to say about that one. That one fucking
Play it
rules.
again. Put it on again.
Yeah, put it on again. Back it up. Go back to it. No, we got to move forward because there's some also quality tracks that we're gonna be getting into moving up. The final track on side a song called Strength, and it's the first of two strength tracks. Just get ready to have your head fucking ripped off by this flute solo. Strength, the first taste of the strength. What do you
At
do you
first
you like
take.
that big you like that beginning part or the second half? Because it's really just two different songs.
Yeah, it is. And I don't know. I feel like they just keep kind of messing with this song throughout the second half of this record,
Mm-hmm.
where there's an acoustic song, and then they just kind of are just they're digging on it and just kind of seeing what is best. And I think in the end
Yeah.
they were just like, it's all good. The lyrics like play out throughout almost the rest of the album.
Yeah, it's like a reoccurring theme that they start right here, where they even do this like a cappella at the end a little bit for a portion. Yeah, I almost kind of want it as I like when tracks go into each other, but the beginning of this track with Una playing guitar, acoustic guitar alongside Janet, and then the pipe and the tin whistles come in. I really like this introduction section before the voices come in at all because it really just sets a tone that's different from the rest of the album. And the guitars, the double acoustic guitars strumming together, and there's even kind of little, not mistakes, but there's like little flubs where they go off of each other. And I love that it's in there because this is such an organic thing. It makes you feel like you're in the room with them, and I just love that aspect to it. And then the choir of the vocals goes off on the second half of Strength, and we get that cool Martin Brahma guitar solo in the middle, like a simple, hyper simplified guitar solo, which is also very fitting. If there was any more notes in that guitar solo, it would not really work the way it should with this type of feel and vibe that this album's going for.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say, I think that's like what I say when the warmness, like you do feel like you're in the room with them. You do feel like you could be a part of it. You're there, you're experiencing what they were living, she said that she paid them in stew and tea, and
Yeah.
everybody was just there for the love of her and the love of this project, and there to create something special.
And she didn't have a big budget, the record label allowed her to do it at Tony Friel's studio, and that gave her a little extra leniency, wiggle room. But I'm just assuming they didn't have a bunch of boxes of tape to go through. So if they got a take of it, they're moving on to another idea. And I also kind of think of, you brought it up, the the strength, the theme, those vocals, the lyrics in this song that reoccur, they could have been doing like kind of multiple versions to try to find one that was the ideal arrangement, but then they all do work so well that they put them in. I think that they could be spaced out even more differently to get the feel of like a reoccurring theme, but we can talk about that later at the end. So let's flip this album over, and as we do, let's flip this album cover over to the front and let's look at the Furia album cover, which is so cool. I love everything about this album cover. It's it really does it for me. It's just like the starkness of the black and white image, which also is photographed so well because you can see kind of the detail in um her arm, her leg, the shadow of the early morning light.
The
You
veil.
The veil, the veil on her head that's been colored green. It's
Yeah, it was
very,
dyed, yeah, dyed green. Like I think
yeah.
I think that's the color of it versus not.
Really? Huh.
I,
I feel like it looks like it's kind of colored, like painted, like they painted
painted on.
the
I
photo.
mean,
But
I know the blood is fake, so it is on her. That's not painted on. And that is Una standing there early morning in a public park.
yeah, we found out that's Una, which is awesome. Photo taken by Linder. It's really good. I give it 10 pints, this cover. If I saw this in the store, it makes me want to, I mean, in 1985 too, I'm like, what the, yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's you don't know what you're gonna get when you pull this thing out of the sleeve.
No, I mean the name, like it could be hardcore punk rock. It could be hard. I mean, it could be something totally different musically before you listen to it just by looking at the cover. It could also be something that's like so far out experimental. What it turns out to be is something neither of those, but something that's all inclusive of uh, a variety of things. So let's flip it over. I think we agree that's good. The back side, we don't have the original version, so we can only assume that we can only tell you what what we're looking at, which is a bunch of
The musicians as children.
yeah, the music photographs of the musicians in the Fates as children. I would love to read the names, but they're so small. I really cannot. I don't want to just mispronounce a bunch of names. Should
Yeah,
I
not
try?
nine. Should you try? Yeah, go ahead. There's 9 photos. 9 people contributed to this archive. The A side is considered the waxing, and the B side is considered the waning side of the moon. Una at one point said, like, while they were creating this, her mother was dying. And then she even commented, and she's like, and even Haley's Comet was around for its 70, every 75 years it comes around. So she was aware of the celestial being. I think at the bottom there, it also It also gives it thanks to the Pendle witches. So yeah,
16th century Pendle witches.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was in it to just be what this album is. This is kind of
Mm.
a kind of a like celestial, but yet earthbound and driven by the women around her and what their future can hold if they're strong enough and powerful enough to keep pushing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Marquis Smith compared the Fates to
I
the
think it
band
was
I was trying to think,
yeah, the
the
third
third
ear
ear
band.
band, which I listened to after I read that, and that is some far out, that I don't know if I'd put that in folk music either, but that's some far out stuff, experimental stuff. And I don't know, I got into it because I was watching a lot of the YouTube performances, and it is really wild. I really liked I really liked watching it. So, and actually, if there's any fall heads that are listening, that if there's a third ear band, I know they have like a variety of albums that are way different, which what I was reading. Let us know which one is, the choice cut to get into, because I would not mind doing that. And Mark also said that the Fates were what he considered pagan punk,
Okay, there you
which,
go.
which I get the punkiness, of course, because they are just like going against the grain of society, and unfortunately, a lot of their feminist and pro female views, which was the case, but they definitely had that punk vibe where, damn, they're gonna do, and also punk vibe, and just making an album where they just are literally not ticking off any of the boxes of what is going to be pop success. They are
Yeah,
not trying to do
it's
that.
not pop, it's not pop success, it's not punk success, it is just a creative project.
It's not even an album where you're just gonna say, "Oh, Blue Orchids heads are gonna love this," right? Or Fall heads. Fall heads are obviously not going to be particularly open to this kind of sound. And I'm speaking real generally. The Blue Orchids, even, it's different, way different than that too. Good for them. I'm glad they made it. I'm glad I get to listen to it. I'm glad that it exists, and I think there should be more access to this. Shit.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a great review by Rob St. John on The Quietest for
Oh
their
yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
re-released in 2014, a decade ago. But yeah, if you're interested and you want to learn more, find that. It's really well done.
Yes, definitely. And also, if you get the CD, you can get even more depth that's kind of summarized in that article from the CD, or from any of the inlay booklets that are available with the physical copy. Because unlike the fall, Una does such a good job of laying out everything, so many details, the history of the band, the how it got started, connections to the Blue Orchids background, and then it even goes into the different meanings of the different songs. So the complete polar opposite of a Marquis Smith move, which is to not give you anything at all, not even the lyrics. Una gives you the background into the meaning, or at least the conceptual topics that are discussed in her songs in this album, which is so refreshing to not hide anything. And obviously, if you've
It is, it's
read
just
anything about her, she just is straightforward.
it's funny too because these lyrics are mostly straightforward, right? So there's not that much
Yeah,
behind the veil, but
yeah.
whereas Marx, it takes a PhD to fully understand what's going on, and even then you're half guessing.
It takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of additional time when you're not listening to figure it out, right? And these songs are just really ready to embrace you as they are. So it's just such a it's like getting into a warm bath. This whole album, you're just like, am I ready? Yes, it's definitely, I'm ready. I'm actually excited. I'm actually so excited to get in here. The In the fall is like, it can be at times like a was the ice bath, ice cold. And you feel invigorated because you're in there. But this is totally different vibe, totally different dynamic. With that, let's flip this baby over and onto side B.